Okay, class, this is the derivative cards problem number 10. And the question is asking, find a derivative of sine of 2x. You might be looking at this and go, sine of 2x? Usually, up to now, you've seen sine of x. And the derivative of sine of x is cosine of x. But what is the derivative of sine of 2x? Would it just be cosine of 2x? And the answer is no. There's such thing as the chain rule, or what we call the product rule. Okay, so before the chain rule, we would have to use an identity for sine of 2x. And the identity is that sine of 2x is going to equal to 2 sine of x multiplied by cosine of x. So before the chain rule, okay, if you don't know the chain rule yet, you have to use an identity. And that would be sine of 2x is equal to 2 sine of x times cosine of x. At which point you are applying the product rule. Okay, and the product rule said if you have a product f multiplied to g, you're taking the derivative, then that would be derivative of the first times the second plus the derivative of the second multiplied by the first. Okay, so that's the product rule. Okay, so let's go ahead and apply that product rule. The derivative of f of x is the derivative of the first, which would be 2 cosine of x multiplied by the second, and that would be cosine of x, plus the derivative of the second, which would be the derivative of cosine, and the derivative of cosine is negative sine, so I would say that plus now become a minus sine of x multiplied by the first, which would be 2 sine of x. So they both have a 2, so I'm going to go ahead and factor out the 2, and that becomes cosine square of x minus sine square of x. And then you would be thinking, oh my gosh, isn't that another identity? Do you know this? That right there is cosine of 2x. And then there's a 2 in the front. And that is the derivative of f of x. Simplified using the product rule. Okay, now after you learn the chain rule, this becomes a lot simpler. The chain rule said if you have a function on the outside and that is being composed of a function in the inside, so f is the outside function, g is the inside function, and you are taking the derivative, then the derivative, the chain rule said it will be the derivative of the outside evaluated at the inside g of x multiplied by the derivative of the inside with respect to x. Okay. So, what this means, the outside function, let's call u being the outside, and u being sine of, say, y, and then y is going to be 2x. Okay, so then the derivative of u is going to be cosine of y, and the derivative of the inside is going to just be 2, right? So when you take the derivative, you would have cosine of y multiplied by 2. Okay, so take the So that is what it means to be the derivative of the outside multiplied by the derivative of the inside. So that would be cosine of y multiplied by 2. That would be this and that. Okay? Now, I would hope that you don't have to write all that down, and I would hope that you actually see it. Okay, so at the end of the day, what we want to recognize is here is an outside function, here's inside function. So the derivative, the chain rule said, the derivative of the outside function, which would be cosine of what? Of whatever the inside is. So leave that the same, multiply by the derivative, so that's the derivative of the outside function, multiplied by the derivative of the inside. And the derivative of inside is the derivative of 2x, which is 2. So that is the logistics of the chain rule. And so if you really want to clean that up and write it neatly, we would say the derivative of f of x is 2 cosine of 2x, which is the same as what we have seen before using the product rule. Okay, so that's the same as using the chain rule. And that is number 10. Number 10. Yes, number 10 of the red card.